Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Good. I'm attempting to make beef shank with beer porter.
Oh yeah, how's that going so far?
I don't know. So far, the house just smells like beer. It doesn't even smell like. No.
Maybe you should just brewed beer instead of making the beef shank.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. See how it goes.
Yeah. Well, make a beer out of the broth, and that if you still have some left.
Oh, dude, that sounds disgusting. But that's something like Robbie Rass will brew.
Yeah, it's not bad. So today we are talking about the Ramón Allones 2014 Edición Regional Alemania 898. So this is a regional for Germany. It's a Lonsdale. The size is 6.7 inches by 43 ring gauge. Country of origin is Cuba. All the wrapper binder filler is listed as Cuba. The factory is RAE, and the release date or box code on this box is July of 15. So right about a year from when we're doing this review. So let's kind of jump into our pre-light experience. Gene, what was your pre-light experience with this cigar?
The pre-light experience was subpar. It was, most Cuban cigars are not aesthetically as pleasing as the non-Cuban stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not when you're stacking up against the Ecuador and Habano wrappers and the broadleafs, for instance.
Right.
But then again, we don't judge it by the way it looks. So
Mm-hmm.
for Cuban cigars. Well, first of all, anytime I look at a Cuban cigar with that secondary regional band,
Mm-hmm.
gets me all excited, but usually it lets me down, and I think, why the hell do I not buy more regular production?
Mm-hmm.
But getting into it, so the wrapper itself has a Colorado Claro wrapper to it. It's pretty smooth and silky. It's not the prettiest of the wrappers out there. It has a bunch of these like dark little lines on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple of unfermented green spots on it. So very typical of what Cuban cigars look like. But the cigar felt pretty well packed, bunched and rolled, because it had a pretty nice uniform give to it. I didn't feel any soft spots on the head or the triple cap. There wasn't any tightness to it. So based upon all the pre-light experience of that, it felt as if the cigar should draw and burn okay. Wrapper aroma, I got some white pepper, some good quality cedar and dried nuts. Foot aroma, I got some the same white pepper, got some sweet hay and cedar. The cold draw, I got dry cardboard, which I get at a ton of cold draws, every single one of them, and like a lip tingling white pepper spice and some
Mm-hmm.
cedar. By you?
Yeah, same thing with the way it looked. Wrapper's medium brown. It's pretty rustic looking. It's not very smooth. There's a lot of veins and a couple of wrinkles, especially up near the primary band. Almost like they put the band on pretty tight while the cigar was still wet, so it kind of like bunched up a little bit right around that point. There were also a few water spots on the wrapper, and the seams were easily visible, which kind of added to the rugged appearance that it had. A capsule applied very nicely. Like you were talking about, it has the standard Ramón Allones band on it, and then it's got that secondary regional band on it that lists kind of what country it's for. The cigar is super light when you're holding it in your hand. There's no real weight to it. It's super light. The aroma from the wrapper was just a really light hay. And then from the foot, I got a fuller hay that had a little bit of sweetness with it. And then the pre-light draw also brought some hay, but a little bit of a graham cracker, like slightly cinnamon sweet kind of a flavor to it, but not much, not a very full flavor. So flavor-wise, kind of take us through first third to final third, what your experience was.
All right. So I smoked this sample today, meaning we both did, right? Like
Yep.
we literally just smoked it. We're like, all right, let's do the video. So getting into it, first third. So first third, in the beginning, it had like a very slick and oily mouthfeel to it. I got some slight charred wood, some airy, sweet dried biscuits, cedar, hay, and my tongue was layered by white pepper spice, but it was all things considered, to especially non-Cubans, it was fairly a faint white pepper. And then I had this really off-putting metallic note that persisted throughout the entire cigar. So about 2.5 inches in or so, I got this graham cracker sweet, like this breadiness that entered into the profile. And I absolutely love that note. Anytime a cigar has that note, like I totally dig it. On the retrohale, sharp cedar, white pepper, and a little bit of this underripe stone fruit quality to it, which was also one of my favorite notes. The finish was a lingering charred wood in that same metallic undertone. Body within the entire cigar was just a regular medium, and then strength since probably like halfway through the first third was a medium plus. So getting into the second third, pretty similar experience as the first third. Still that slick and oily mouthfeel of charred wood, biscuits, cedar, hay, that tongue layering white pepper. The graham cracker and the underripe stone fruit was more prominent, which was total welcoming thing. I had a lead-like quality of like a minerality to it as well at the within the second third. But unfortunately, within all those notes that I just mentioned, it was still overshadowed by those metallic notes, and oftentimes it'll mask the good notes that I just talked about. So about like an inch into the second third, I started getting this absolute. I mean, the only way I could describe it is disgusting. I got this disgusting like unleaded gasoline, like a kerosene kind of a note to it. And it's weird because, for me, when I smoke a cigar, I don't draw it. The first thing I do is I purge, like a real quick purge, and I start drawing the smoke in. So every time I draw the cigar in, when I kind of set it down for a while, I got that gasoline note to it. It was absolutely disgusting. I've never tasted that in any cigar in my life, and I hope to never taste it in my life again. But it was sick. So moving on to the second third, it's not thankfully as shitty as the second third.
You're talking about the final third now?
Yeah, the final third.
Okay.
So it's not as crappy as the second third. The white pepper is more intensified, which is a welcoming thing, and that paired really well with that charred wood, that hay and cedar. And I still had that really good graham cracker deliciousness. And luckily, within the last third, I no longer got that kerosene gasoline note, but there was still that metallic note, which still masked the other flavors that I liked so much. So, yeah, all in all, that was it.
Yeah, for me, initial light, it was really musty. Then about a 1/4 inch in, I got some woodiness that came in to mix with the mustiness. The retrohale, very similar profile, so woodiness and mustiness. At the 1 inch mark, there was very little change in the profile. The woodiness slightly took over the mustiness as the primary flavor, but they were, pretty equal other than that. A little further in, the mustiness became the primary component of the retrohale. And then at 2 inches in, the flavor becomes a little bit bitter, and the wood and the mustiness were still the primary flavors, and the strength was right around mild medium for me. And then getting into the second third, it was just a continuation of what the first third was. So still woody, musty with a slight bit of bitterness there. A 1/4 inch in, the woodiness came to more resemble oak, so a little bit more defined there. And then 3/4 of an inch in, the profile was still oak, mustiness, slight bitterness. And then an inch in, the retrohale became a little bit smoother, with mustiness being the primary flavor, with a little bit of bitterness, but it wasn't a bitterness that was detracting from the profile. It was kind of adding to the experience there. And then nearing the end of the third, the profile became a little darker as some char joined to oak, and then the mustiness and the bitterness were still there. And the strength in that third was slightly below medium. Final third, it continued with the char to oak, the mustiness and the bitterness. and the bitterness had increased a little bit from where it was in the second third. Half an inch in, charred oak's primary flavor on the retrohale. There was a little bit of mintiness that came in to mix with that, and then at an inch in, the char faded back and the oak became a little brighter, more green. An inch and a half in, the bright oak remained, still had some mustiness and bitterness, and the retrohale was then primarily musty with a slight mintiness to it. And the third here remained kind of slightly below medium. So, slight increase from first to second, and then second to third were, just like a little bit below medium.
You didn't get anything of what I said?
I did not get the gasoline kerosene experience or the
metallic notes.
The metallic notes. I didn't get any of that, so I'm thankful for that at least. But I didn't get anything that said, "Oh my gosh, this is junk," and if I wasn't reviewing it, I would toss it. But
I would have tossed it if we were reviewing it.
Yeah. So getting in performance, burn and draw. Take us through what you experienced.
The burn was really good. Burn slow and cool I got like 125 minutes out of the smoking time, which is solid. The ash itself held on really strong and tight. The only minor thing is the ash fell off in like more like half-inch marks, which is pretty short, which is why it wasn't an amazing burn category award. It was instead like a very good one.
Right.
Draw. It was a slightly tight for me, so I clipped it again, and it opened up a lot more, but still was on the tighter side. But it was still a really good draw, and it did no hindrance on tasting all the notes of the cigar, good or bad.
Right. Yeah, the burn for me was really good. There was a slight wave here or there, but it always, caught itself back up. And the ash held on for me in 1 inch segments, so I had, I think, a little bit of better experience on that than you did. Same experience in draw. Mine was fairly tight. I cut it a second time like you did. It improved it a little bit, but not much. It was still pretty tight. And I wasn't going to take the draw tool to it just because of the ring gauge on this.
All right.
I kind of thought that the wrapper might be a little fragile, so I didn't want to take the chance of going to the side of it or hitting something and making a bulge pop one of the sides. So I didn't really try to touch it up that much. But I don't think that the draw really had any effect on the flavors at all. It was manageable, but it didn't. I don't think it was like I wasn't having to draw really hard on it or anything like that to get smoke produced by it. So, All right. So overall, what was your experience like with the cigar?
Overall, the timing was absolutely off for this, for my experience. I mean, so what I mean by that is, I think the cigar that I had was in the sick period. So sick period is it happens to mainly Cuban cigars that I've heard of it. It rarely happens in the non-Cuban cigar because I know guys, after the cigar beats getting rolled, it gets put into the aging room. But with Cuban cigars, typically what will happen is box, send it out. So, so the rule of thumb for Cuban cigars that are fresh is you don't want to smoke it. Like right when you get the box, you can smoke a couple of them to gauge if you like it or not.
Right.
And if you're past that period, you should just not smoke it within like at least a year or two. Right. So typically at a minimum a year. So this cigar, knowing that it's boxed in July 2015, about a year ago, but not necessarily, that's not when the cigars are rolled.
Right.
Right. So, my palate tells me that it's in a sick period. I mean, it's, notes of, especially the metallic notes, is quintessential flavor for a cigar that's sick. And, I feel like it was perhaps my bad to smoke this now, and not follow the book rules.
Right.
But at the same rate, I had other cigars that was within a year or so of the box date, and it totally turned a corner for the best, right? And typical style of Cuba being Cuba, they don't exactly disclose everything to us. And they disclose very few information for us.
Right.
I smoked this cigar upon release, which was like when I got it, like probably 6-7 months ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have those metallic notes. It was strong. Like it was definitely still that medium plus for strength.
Right.
And there was way more pepper. There's still that graham cracker note and all that stuff. I mean, pretty much everything that I put in my review, aside from that off-putting, gasoline / metallic notes to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I mean, if we didn't smoke it, we wouldn't know where it was at. So now I know that I got to stash away and not even look at it for another year or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my review notes, I just put welcome to Cuban cigars. I mean, what you said, I think, is spot on. I mean, the fact that they let the cigars age in your humidor rather than in their aging rooms,
Right.
this is what you're going to get at times. So, you said what the rule of thumb is, but, in the United States, who's, gets smoking primarily cigars from Nicaragua or Dominican or Honduras, that's not the experience. You don't have to hurry up and smoke them right when they're released or when you get them, and then have a chunk of time where you have to just wait on them before you revisit them. You're supposed to be able to just smoke them, and that's a typical experience with non-Cubans. So for this, I don't know. I don't want to play that game of, you have to skip the reviewing period within this range. I mean,
right.
We're just going to review when we want to review it, or when it's kind of comes up in the queue kind of thing. So if this is the experience that you get from it for the review for us, that's going to be what we report on. It's not going to be some baby cigar. So, and we don't do that for anything else either. So it's just going to be the way it goes. But no real complexity to the flavors. The flavors that were there were okay. The woodiness and mustiness, those are typical flavors I get from Cuban cigars, but much more flavorful than what I got here. This was just kind of like muddled and nothing really exciting about it. But typical Cuban stuff, if you get it, try one, try two, see what you think about it. If you don't like it, you can wait a little while and try it again and see if it's different. And then if you like it at that point, then you can go back and determine if you want to, buy more of them. But for me right now, I'll just kind of wait and see, and then maybe we smoke some later on down the road and revisit it and see if it turns the corner, or if this is kind of what it's going to be later on down the road. So
I mean, 99.9% of the time it's turned a corner for me for Cuban cigars.
Right.
We got to do this one justice down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it comes out if we do a secondary one, and what it looks like at that point.
Yep.
So scoring wise, you gave this a 4.00. I gave it a 4.27. So we're really close on the scores on this one too. Do you think the score is justified for your experience?
No, I think it might have been a little too nice.
Yeah, I mean, it fits for me. I mean, it's definitely below average, especially for what the cigar is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a regional, so it's supposed to be special.
Right.
This was nothing close to special. So,
and I'm going to go off on a little tangent here a little bit. So before I get any idiots emailing me or posting on this review of how much I hate Cuban cigars, that's not true. I collect a ton of Cuban cigars. I am a Cuban cigar smoker at heart. But I think this is a great example because it gives readers an understanding of what sick cigars taste like.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just disgusting. It's not good, right? Like,
right.
I mean, there are some good notes in this scenario, but it's completely overshadowed by the off-putting flavors. And for me, of all the things that I have gripes about with Cuban cigars, if it's a regional cigar and it costs a pretty penny to buy it, can't you just age the damn thing in the aging room for a while instead of just pushing production? And I get it, man. Like, I know it's all about the money, but I mean, this is highly anticipated. I mean, off the original discontinued Ramon 898, so when people heard about this one coming out, people were just going crazy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But to know that, it seemed like it was rushed and typical Cuba style of really not saying anything and disclosing much.
Right.
That's unfortunate. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people try Cuban cigars are like, oh, this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I will continuously say, and I will always say, when Cuba wants to make probably the best cigar out there. They could do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's still no doubt about that in my mind.
Right.
So,
yep, agreed with you. So I mean, we've rated other Cuban cigars, and they've done much better than this. So it's not like we're trying to hate on them. It's just that this one just wasn't up to par at the point it was in its aging time frame, I guess is the right way to say it. But
no.
All right, if you're just catching this review on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us, but also check out the website, developingpalates.com. Be sure to follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. I think that's a wrap for this one. Thanks a lot for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thank you.